It is time for the inevitable finale. How will the heroes of the Marvel Universe defeat the God of the Void? This is the Comicstorian channel where we take some of your favorite trade paperbacks and single issues, and I break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. Then I read them dramatically back to you. All alterations to the panel, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. We are at the finale, folks. King in Black is a series that started up in November back in Marvel Comics. The god of the symbiotes, the creator of the Void, the being that started it all, arrived on Earth and decided that he was going to conquer everything and kill everyone. He immediately killed off Eddie Brock, sending him into a purgatory for symbiotes, and then proceeded to battle all the superheroes of the Marvel Universe with his symbiote dragons. Today we're going to be bringing you Planet of the Symbiotes number 3, Venom number 34, and then King in Black finale. So let's start off with the Planet of the Symbiotes, which tells you 2 more side stories of Cloak and Dagger and Toxin. Then we'll get into the meat of today's episode. From the depths of space, a darkness has enveloped the world, driving humanity into a state of new madness. Though as Dagger, she carries the shards of light. She's beginning to feel her powers pale in comparison in the midst of complete darkness. This is not a mere absence of light, rather, the soul of humanity is being torn from its chassis. Good versus evil is a primal concept in the universe, one that has maintained a unique balance since the beginning of time. Now, they find themselves on the precipice of change. For some in the city, the darkness is the invitation to release the pain that swells within. And since Knull has arrived with his symbiote horde, chaos has reigned in the streets. It's at that moment that Cloak and Dagger have seen it firsthand. But as the world has seemingly spiraled into the void, there's something that concerns Dagger more than that. That the symbiote effect has changed Cloak. He was never the warmest, but something within him has grown outright cold. His psi-link, the mental connection that connects them, has been severed by Knull's dark psychic energy, and she has no idea what he's feeling or what he's about to do. As Cloak disappears, he reappears on the street, and Dagger notices 2 men about to attack him. She leaps down, stopping the men, but as Cloak looks back, he unleashes the terrors of the dark force dimension on the attackers. There has always been pain in this world, but hope tempered despair. And as the men fell, Dagger called out to Cloak, telling him to wait. Why did he do that? She had them down. Cloak continues walking, stating that she didn't have them down far enough. But as the 2 get closer to the police, the officer says that by their getup, he's going to assume that they are Cloak and Dagger. Dagger tells him, yes, what's going on? And the officer tells them that they have a situation 3 blocks east. Bank robbery, SWAT, and tactical have been overrun. Without saying a word, Cloak disappears and then reappears, releasing the horrors on the bank robbers and continues on his way. Cloak then walks into a church and Dagger quickly runs in asking what is going on. Cloak drops the robbers on the floor, telling her that she is the only person that he ever trusted, and that he is no longer the person that she has known. When she was on the streets, he would hide in the churches, but he wasn't looking for shelter. He was trying to make sense of the world, and Dagger says that maybe the world isn't supposed to make sense. And Cloak asks, where does he find the hope then? How will they defeat this? Dagger holds out her hand, casting a light, telling him within, no matter how crazy things get, there will always be light, and he just has to let her in, and they just have to keep the faith. The light begins to radiate around them, banishing the darkness, and as it fades, Cloak says that after Knull, the world will never be the same. Right and wrong no longer means what it did when they began this journey. Dagger says that they can adjust to life however it manifests. And a few moments later, the officer from before walks in, stating that it looks like those men won't be robbing any banks anytime soon. Looks like it's going to be a long night though. Cloak tells her yes, but there's a bright side. Whatever comes, they'll be facing it together. Next up, we have Toxin, another of the symbiotes. In the Lincoln Tunnel, the trail between New York and New Jersey, an Alchemix transport gets turned over and a brood breaks free, slaughtering all of the officers so that it can try to contain the creature. But as Toxin watches, he says that they could be spending their weekend doing better things, Bren. Bren asks if he's complaining. He thought that they'd be excited to be getting out. And Toxin asks, have we been to a cult ritual? I'd be happy to just be alive. For so long, I was barely burnt toast. So little left. Even Lord God Knull didn't care enough to save me. But they saved me. I'm healthier now, meatier, and full of opinions. Bren then says that his opinion is that the people are terrified and they might be able to help. Don't they care? Toxin stops him. Wait. There it is, your conscience. Hard to hear it over all the gunfire. You ready, Bren? Toxin jumps off the ceiling, punching the Brood, and then the Brood just knocks him away. Toxin says, okay, and he throws his tendrils into the Brood's head, slamming him into the wall. And as Toxin gets ready to end the Brood tells him to go ahead. They've had worse. Toxin pauses. What? The Brood pulls himself out of the wall, telling him that Alchemax cut him up. He's human. Well, he was human. There's Brood marrow in his bones. The pain, every day a new surgery. Can't even talk anymore, not like he did. It's been months. Now, could you stop my escape? Toxin tells Bren that he hates to admit it, but they might be fighting the wrong people. And then a voice says, you call this a fight? An armored man punches Toxin with enough force to launch him to the other side of the street. The man then says that they call him the Guardsman. Alchemax security, built to beat symbiotes. Toxin lunges back asking, they got security? Because all I see is canned meat! But Bren tells him that the punch hurt. Are you sure you can back up that talk, Toxin? Guardsman pulls his arm back, telling him, your god rained alien crap from the sky. Blocked out our sun. Your kind hit us hard. But New York always hits back, alien. And Alchemax is here to help. As the Guardsman punches the ground, he creates a small sinkhole, trapping Toxin, and Toxin says that is some tough talk from Little Green Man. The Guardsman fires a blast, asking, little? Does this seem little? Does it? As the smoke clears, Toxin isn't anywhere to be found. And across the city, Toxin swings through, stating that Alchemax has always been hot for symbiotes, but stuffing humans full of alien guts is a new disgusting low. Bren tells him not to mention hiring armored enforcers. That Guardsman nearly fried us. Toxin climbs into Bren's room, asking, what? That was playground stuff. Worried Dad would get mad that you were fighting? Bren yells that he doesn't even have his learner's permit yet. He's never been in a fight, and trust him when he says that his dad would be proud if he was. Probably buy him a steak dinner. Toxin asks, was it the punches to the face that you're stuck on? Because I can tell you all about my family. At that moment, the front door slams closed and Bren tells Toxin to be quiet. Does he think that anyone could tell? Toxin asks, what? About your new bad best friend? And Bren tells him, no, my malignant passenger. Toxin calls it out. Wow, that hurt. Not dying in a fire hurts, but I'll be writing a long entry into my alien diary. At that moment, Bren's father calls out that he is home from work. He fit 16 hours into 6 on this one. And as Bren opens the door, he sees his father wearing the Guardsman armor, telling him that he had one hell of a day. Alright, so that is the last of the side stories. Toxin is a symbiote that time forgot at Marvel, and this was just showing us that Toxin is still around and on a kid, and he has his own stuff to deal with. I'd be interested to see what's gonna happen with Bren. And the Cloak and Dagger stuff honestly just feels like Marvel doesn't want us to forget that Cloak and Dagger exist. But let's get into Venom number 34, which is going to lead to our finale. When we last left off, Eddie Brock had been killed and was stuck in symbiote purgatory, where he met up with Flash Thompson. As they were fighting their way through, Flash sacrificed himself to turn into a symbiote dragon, and you'll hear more about that in a minute. And Knull arrived to eradicate what remains of Eddie Brock, and that's where we left off. Flash Thompson was a bully, then he was a soldier, then he was a superhero, and now, well, he's a dragon. But Eddie Brock, he's a ghost, trapped as a memory of who he once was inside of a symbiote hive mind covering the entire world. And even still inside of that hive mind, Knull's influence is supreme. Try as he might, Eddie is unable to stop Knull, because this version of Knull is a part of him, not actually Knull. So once again, that moment of being dropped off a ledge repeats again and again. It's a part of the cycle, ashes to ashes, dust to... Except this time, Venom finds Eddie. As Venom bonds with Eddie, Eddie laughs. You broke 3! You found me! And Venom responds, always, we're together again. We are Venom! And it is time for you to return to the real world, Eddie. Eddie asks him how. I thought I was just a memory. And Venom tells him, you're a codex, and together we can escape. We just have to choose a form. And as Eddie tells him that he has no idea that he may have stolen from another calling themselves Venom, a giant arm reaches out of the ground. Eddie grabs it, squishing a symbiote dragon, and Flash Thompson, as the symbiote dragon, flies overhead asking, holy crap, is that you, Eddie? And Eddie tells him, it is us, yes! Flash tells him, geez, okay, point me where to go. And Eddie tells him, "No! This is between me and Knull! I have to save my son, Dylan! I need you on the ground, Flash!" Flash asks him, "How? My physical form is in a grave. I can't just..." And Eddie tells him, "Remember what happened to Cletus when he got a dragon symbiote? Oh wait, you weren't alive for that part. Just go to your grave. Trust me on that." As Flash leaves, Eddie begins to make his way towards Knull. When Venom tells him to wait, a bright light begins to shine and Venom yells, "This is it! The one that Wraith told us about! It's here! The God of Light is here, Eddie!" At that moment, a beam of light shoots through Eddie and into Knull as he awakens, reviving into the world of the living. Venom has felt them before, like their kind, but different. His light, approaching, blinding, screaming, roaring. As Eddie's body begins to fall out of the sky, he yells to Venom to wait. "Don't leave me." And Venom tells him, "It's okay. We must let go so that it may take you. We'll find you after. Always find you, Eddie." Once again, the light begins to shine and even the mere sight of it harms Knull. But for Eddie, his physical form begins to awaken. It was at this time that Reed Richards started to channel the energy source. It behaves like a symbiote. It always has. This godlight. He knows what it is. They all do. They've just been calling it the wrong name. Finally, the Enigma Force is solved. Its cosmic energies flow through Eddie Brock, bringing his body back to life from the brink of death, and all he needs to do is choose his form. But Eddie laughs as it asks him, because there's only one answer to that question. He will be Venom! Meanwhile, over in the Arlington National Cemetery, Flash flies over the gravestones stating, "All right, Brock, you better be right about this." Flash crashes into the ground, letting the dragon be absorbed into the hive. And a few moments later, a fully flesh and bone human hand reaches out of the grave, reviving Flash Thompson from the dead. As the world smolders around them, the Silver Surfer and Knull face off with one another. But Knull, he can sense that he has met the Surfer before. The Surfer tells him that they have indeed met, and even now, he remains unimpressed. For there is another now, the God of Light. As the Surfer creates a sword out of his board, Knull rises, telling him, "Yes, I have heard. But no matter how fast light travels, darkness is always there, waiting. In a way, I admire the little light. I remember them, and they will die a noble death, Surfer." The Silver Surfer turns to him, "Perhaps, but I will not face you alone." As Knull looks over, he can see the rest of Earth's heroes running at him, with Captain America leading the charge, yelling, "Avengers, assemble!" But before they could engage, something separates the heroes from Knull in the form of an explosion of light and a familiar voice telling them, "I appreciate the assist, but..." Eddie Brock stands up, infused with the Enigma Force, telling them, "I'll take it from here." Knull begins to laugh. "What is this? The great God of Light has chosen a host that I've already killed? How many times now? Is this supposed to scare me? You don't possibly think that you can!" But Eddie holds up his hands, summoning not only Thor's hammer, but Silver Surfer's board, telling him, "Yeah, I do think." He takes a hold of Mjolnir and the board, slamming them together with a thundering ka-chong, creating a weapon fitting of a Venom, a giant battle axe. He leaps into the air, swinging the massive weapon, narrowly missing Knull, forcing him to flee. But Eddie can feel it. Knull is hiding, running, throwing everything he can in their way. First, the dragons attack him, and with one swing, his symbiote entrails are slung about as far as the axe can fling them. Eddie then yells to Knull to stop hiding, and through the bloody mist, Knull lunges in, asking, "You want your end? Then let the All Black be!" But as Knull brings his sword down, Eddie catches the blade, telling him, "No, no more swords, no more dragons. Just you and me, Knull." Eddie throws himself into Knull as the two crash down into the ground below, and as Eddie lifts his axe, he asks, "You wanted darkness? I hope you enjoy it." Knull cackles, telling him, "We are nothing but darkness." And then there's a rumble as the giant celestial arm bursts through, reaching for Eddie. However, Eddie doesn't wait. He leaps up to the celestial's head, and with one fiery swing, he decapitates it. He turns back, flying down, picking up Knull standing over a high ledge, and then he asks, "Do you remember when you dragged me up from the sewers? All that pain, the fear, the agony as you ripped my other from me?" Knull begins to tell him, "You can't!" Then Eddie buries his axe into Knull, telling him, "I remember it. All of it!" As Eddie pulls back, he tears off Knull's symbiote, asking, "And do you want to know what I remember the most? I remember feeling hopeless, helpless, and falling." Knull's fragile body slams into the ground below as Eddie follows up, telling him, "Get up! We're not done!" Knull sits up laughing through the blood that is pouring out of his mouth. "You can't win! You may kill me, but the darkness, it will live on in your son!" Eddie grabs Knull, shooting off into the sky, asking, "You want to talk about my son? Let's go talk!" He bursts through the symbiote dome into space, and Knull tells him that the darkness has teeth, child. And Eddie asks, "Yeah? Well, so do I!" He opens up his mouth, spewing cosmic energy down on Knull's head, melting his mind as he screams in pain. They continue flying, and Eddie tells him, "You might have been right. There will always be darkness. We may all be swallowed by it. We may all lose. We may all be consumed by the void, doomed to drown in your kingdom of black. But me, I don't care. This is for Dylan." Eddie holds out Knull's body, pushing it into the first layer of the sun, burning him away until there's nothing left. Then he hears a voice. The voice asking if he can feel it. He's done it. And the others are singing to him. Knull is gone, his hive. They are free. Back on Earth, the vampires all cheer, stating that they did it. Victory. Finally, their nation shall be recognized for the noble state it is. Hail Dracula. And Blade cuts his way through that pack, with the vampires managing to bring him down to the ground as he laughs. The vampires ask, "What's so funny?" Blade tells him that he just happens to know what time it is. Before they could even ask, the symbiote dome shatters, letting the sunlight in, destroying them all. Thor and the Silver Surfer look at the battle axe and both hold out their hands, calling their weapons back. The axe begins to shake as Mjolnir and the board split apart, and Thor says that it would appear the battle has been won. The Surfer says indeed, the battle is done. However, he does not think that things will be the same. As Eddie returns to the Earth, the symbiotes begin to swirl around and everyone cheers that he did it. But Eddie, he doesn't care. He has somebody else he needs to see. Dylan begins to struggle, but Eddie grabs him, telling him, "Hey, hang on. Everything's going to be okay." Dylan tells him that the darkness is in him. But Eddie tells him, "I know, just listen, okay? I love you, and everything's going to be okay." Dylan asks, what about the piece of Knull inside of him? He can feel them burning. Eddie holds up his hand, glowing with cosmic energy, and he says that he knows. Try to breathe. This is going to hurt. So Eddie then thrusts his arm into Dylan's chest, and as Dylan screams, he tells him it's okay. It's going to be okay. He knows that it hurts. As Eddie pulls back, he takes the piece of Knull with him, telling him that he made him a promise, that his son will not inherit this darkness. Eddie crushes the wiggling strand of Knull, and as he does, he can feel his suit pulling off. He asks what's happening, and the godly voice tells him that he has done well, but they must leave him. He does not need the light to protect him, not anymore. Eddie says that he doesn't understand how will he, but the voice tells him that he has a new role. He has to become something else, something new. Soon the symbiotes begin to crawl up, and Venom shouts, asking if they can hear him. Can he feel it? Can he feel what has happened? Eddie tells him he can. He can hear them all. And Dylan asks if he's okay, and Eddie, bonded back with Venom, says, "Yes, we're okay. Now stay here. I'll be right back." Eddie spreads his wings as he flies into the sky as all of the symbiotes follow. And Venom says that the others are speaking in their ancient tongue because he defeated the void. He freed their kind. He is the hive mind now. Eddie Brock is the god of the symbiotes. Venom is the king in black. And that concludes a 5-month series that built up over the course of 2 years over at Marvel. The King in Black is over with a new god within the Marvel Universe. Eddie is crazy powerful, possibly the most powerful individual in the universe. We're not technically done yet. Next week, we're going to bring you the Symbiote Spider-Man King in Black tie-in, and then we're going to move on to doing other Marvel comic books on Saturdays. You'll start getting a collection of weird ones, such as Silk and other Spider-Man stories and stuff like that. So please consider sticking around at the Comicstorian channel, checking back every Friday for a DC compilation and every Saturday for a Marvel compilation. And if you want to have a vote on the complete stories that we do, such as like what we're doing at Dead Man Logan or Batman Inc., consider going to our Patreon, patreon.com/Comicstorian, where you can sign up for the mini producer tier and get a full vote on all the stuff coming to the channel. Thank you so much for your continued support. I hope you guys enjoyed this storyline, and I'll see you next time right here at Comicstorian.